It's me again, and it's the next chapter in the Ragged Trousered Philanthropists. Chapter 26, in fact, entitled The Slaughter. I only just want to read a tiny bit of this, maybe 3 or 4 minutes at the most, but I'd like to read this out loud, because it now comes up to a point in the story where there is going to take place what they've called the slaughter. The workers have been working on the cave owned by Mr. Sweater. Get the name, Mr. Sweater. It's a house, and the owner of the company for which they work is a Mr. Rushton. Everything is rushed, and Mr. Sweater, who it actually turns out Mr. Rushton is ripping off anyway by doing substandard jobs and actually instructing the workers to work below par and just pocket the difference himself in materials costs that he's saved but charged on to Sweater. I want to read this first page at least because I almost have in my head a picture of two senior Tories. Rushton could be one and Sweater could be the other. And we'll imagine that these two senior Tories have decided to do up a country house somewhere. A large red brick building in the country surrounded by green fields and willow trees and oaks and everything like that. And you have to go down the sort of briar path to get to it. And they're now meeting as the house is finally being done up and finished. Yep. And of course, a lot of this is going to be a little bit on the quiet. See if we can pass the bill to the tax man. See if there's anything we can corporately steal as well from the tax man. See if we can steal from the public for that matter, yeah? Because let's face facts. Tories are always on about people stealing through taking stuff that isn't theirs, yeah? But they steal too. This is so like I imagine that meeting will go. Just let me read this first couple of pages or first page, okay? So it's from chapter 26, The Slaughter. During the afternoon, Rushton and Sweater visited the house, the latter having an appointment to meet there a gardener to whom he wished to give instructions concerning the laying out of the grounds, which had been torn up for the purpose of putting in the new drains. Sweater had already arranged with the head gardener of the public park to steal some of the best plants from that place and have them sent up to the cave. These plants had been arriving in small lots for about a week. They must have been bought either in the evening after the men left off or very early in the morning before they came. The two gentlemen remained at the house for about half an hour, and as the mournful sound of the town hall bell, which was always tolled to summon meetings of the council, was heard in the distance, the hands remarked to each other that another robbery was being perpetrated. Just pause for a second. Could you imagine as once they finally got Big Ben back into going bong, bong, bong. Imagine all the Tories actually meeting just as they hear those bang, those bongs of Big Ben, and everyone outside Parliament knowing that yet another robbery was being perpetrated, a robbery from the public purse. So I'll carry on. Hunter did not come to the job again that day. He'd been sent by Rushton to price some work for which the firm was going to tender an estimate. There was only one person who felt any regret at his absence, and that was Mrs. White, Bert's mother, who'd been working at the cave for several days, scrubbing the floors. As a rule, Hunter paid her wages every night, and on this occasion she happened to need the money for more than usual. As leaving time drew near, she mentioned the matter to Crass, who advised her to call at the office on her way home and ask the young lady clerk for the money. As Hunter did not appear, she followed the foreman's advice. When she reached Rushton's shop, Rushton was coming out. She explained to him that she wanted and had been instructed by Mr. Budd to tell Miss Wade to pay her. The shopman accordingly escorted her to the office at the back of the shop, and the young lady bookkeeper, after referring to former entries to make quite certain of the amount, paid her that sum that Hunter had represented as her wages. The same amount Miss Wade had on the previous occasions been given to pay him to pay the charwoman. When Mrs. White got outside, she found that she held in her hand half a crown instead of 2 shillings, as she usually received from Mr. Hunter. At first she felt inclined to take it back, but after some hesitation she thought better of it, until she saw Hunter, when she could tell him about it. But the next morning, when she saw that disciple at the cave, he broached the subject first, and told her that Miss Wade had been made a mistake, and that evening when he paid her, he had deleted 6pence from the usual 2 shillings. Just those first pages, and I literally will leave it there. It's about a page and a half, yeah? Look at that. They're cheats. Rushton and all that lot are absolute thieves and cheats. Bert is the little sort of apprentice that washes out the brushes, and he's been indentured to the firm virtually as a servant, yeah? And they're even using his mother as a charwoman and short paying her. Is that, or is that not, so like Tory Britain? Instead of Rushton and Co., could you imagine Serco and Co.? Could you imagine Atos and Co.? Could you imagine Virgin and Co.? Any of your PLCs doing on an industrial scale what these people are doing in Mugglesborough, where this book is set. That'll do for me for a moment. It's not actually, it's Mugsborough. What am I saying? Mugglesborough. Correction. Mugsborough. Mugglesborough. Muggles. Harry Potter. Oh, it sticks in the head, doesn't it? But Mugsborough. Okay? That'll do me for the moment.